episode 32 of the Hilo Stitch podcast, our first episode of 2021. I'm your host, Kristen, and I am here to talk to you about what else? Knitting. I will also be talking a little bit about knitting pattern design, though I am wrapping that up. Other goings on in the fiber arts community and any knitting adjacent topics, or really just anything that comes to mind, but mostly knitting. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. A special thank you to my Patreon patrons whose support helps keep this podcast up and running, and a special welcome to any new viewers who are checking out the podcast for the first time. So if you don't know me already, my name is Kristen Janik. I am a almost retired knitting pattern designer, pattern translator, knitter, and knitting instructor. I live in the Maryland suburbs of Washington, D.C. with my two little boys who are 6 and almost 8, and my very tall husband from Peru. When I am not knitting, occasionally it happens, I also enjoy yoga, vegetable gardening, reading, drinking wine, but it is mostly about the knitting, so let's go ahead and start talking about it. All right, so we made it. We made it to 2021. As I am recording this podcast, the House is currently debating and about to take a vote on impeaching Donald Trump for a second time in his 4-year term. And we are 7 days out from the inauguration when functional adult Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris will take office. Thank the Lord. It has been nearly a year now that we have been in this pandemic and mostly at home and mostly not allowed to go see other humans. But there is a bright spot on the horizon. There is a vaccine, several vaccines in fact. They are starting to be distributed, although there are some issues with that. My sister is actually getting the first dose of the vaccine today. She works with people with developmental delays, so she's considered a healthcare worker. So she gets her first dose today. So good for her. I am most concerned about my dad, who is in his 70s, and he is also a teacher. So I really hope he will be able to get his soon. I certainly don't expect myself or my husband to be able to get vaccines anytime soon. But I do hope that my dad is going to be in line soon. So in this episode, I'm going to do my usual segments, and I'm also going to kind of do a 2020 wrap up. So just take a peek at some of the projects I've finished and designs I've published, and give you a little 2020 summary. Although I do encourage you, of course, to go back and watch all of the 2020 podcasts as well. So I hope everyone had a safe and peaceful at home New Year. We let the kids stay up until midnight for the first time, and they made it, and they only slept an hour later the next morning. I overindulged a bit on New Year's Eve. So it was not my favorite New Year's Eve, but we did have my dad and my sister at our house, and so we all at least got to ring in the new year together. It is now January, let's see, by the time you're watching this, January 15th. The kids are back in school, but of course, distance learning, or in the case of my youngest son, I am homeschooling him because Zoom school just did not work for him. So we are back into the swing of that. And then we do have a long weekend to look forward to. My older son's birthday is coming up, and unfortunately, really just not going to be able to do a lot for it. If it had been in warmer weather, we could have done something outside, maybe invited a few of his friends over for something outdoors and distant, but it's February, or his birthday is in February, so that's unless something dramatic happens, not a great time for outdoor events in this part of the world. So last year he had we squeaked his birthday in before the pandemic hit. Last year he had his Harry Potter birthday party. So I think this year we'll probably just have my dad and my sister over again, and let him know that when it's safe, we will do a nice, maybe next year we do a big birthday party for him, or if it's safer, at least by August, when my youngest son has his birthday, maybe we could do a dual birthday party. So we'll see. But that is kind of a bummer. This time of year is already hard enough with kind of being cooped up inside more and not much to look forward to. And now even sort of the usual stuff we might be looking forward to is out of the question. We usually take the kids to a train garden on the day after Christmas. That was obviously closed. And yeah, and usually this time of year, just in general, we're doing indoor events like visiting the train museum, and all of that is out. And it is, it's not freezing here, but it's a bit cool for anything long-term outdoors. So we are doing the best we can. I was cleaning out my closet today, this morning, because it had just become a repository for like leftover yarn and just kind of anything that I didn't know what to do with, I just threw in there. So it was quite a mess. I was cleaning it out this morning and I found my old Game Boy Advance. So this was, I don't know, like the second or third iteration of the Game Boy that I must have had in my early 20s. I always like those Mario games. So I found it. It still works. I have about 4 games. The lighting on it is a little dim, so maybe we'll get an attachment, but I gave it to the kids. My kids are so different. And the little one, you just grabbed it and started figuring it out, started playing. And the older one, how do I do this? How do I do that? This isn't working. I can't figure it out. I don't know. So they're very different, but they do seem to be enjoying them, and at least that's something new to play with. Not that video games are great. We have, a couple of iPads, older generation iPads that we have used for them, and I was okay with that when they were playing, with apps and games, but now they mostly just seem to go on there and watch videos of trains on YouTube or whatever, and rather than be doing something that engages their brain just a little bit more, even if it's, Super Mario Brothers or Donkey Kong, or I think we I've got like 3 versions of Mario and Donkey Kong, and my husband found a cartridge for something I'd never heard of. So at least that's a little something that's new for them. This is just, it's not our favorite time of year. Not much to look forward to. Not great weather, but no snow. Last year we didn't have much snow either. Hopefully, if and when we get snow, it's usually in January and February, so hopefully we can at least keep some hope alive. But today it's in the 40s, so no snow in the foreseeable future is here either. We'll just have to keep going. My husband is still working from home, so we are just all trapped in the house together almost constantly for almost a year now. It's been, I'm sure most of you are in the same boat. I know a lot of people, people who, maybe live by themselves or don't have kids, are like, oh gosh, I cannot wait till the pandemic is over. I'm going to go out. I want to see people. And all I want to do when the pandemic is over is go somewhere by myself for a week. Just no kids, no husband, no dog. I just want to be alone. Been a long time. But there is plenty of knitting to do. So why don't we go ahead and start talking about some of that. I finally have something off the needles again to share with you. It was supposed to be done for Christmas and it wasn't, but I finished it last week, I think, or maybe it was earlier this, no, what's today? Today's Wednesday. So it was definitely, I think, over the weekend that it was finally dry after blocking. And I gifted it to my husband, but I have reclaimed it to show you. I have finished the Snuggle is Real cowl, which was intended as a Christmas gift for my husband, and I guess was more like a New Year's gift for my husband. This is a pattern by Maxim Sire. It is a double layered cowl. So the inside has this very soft layer. You could use lace weight mohair, but I used lace weight Suri alpaca. This is so soft, and you can see it's so fuzzy and just delightful. This is yarn that was left over from a design that's going to be coming out, I think next month in February. It's a third party, obviously. And it was the lace weight that I happen to have on hand, but it goes pretty well with the colors. It doesn't matter too much though, that's the inside. So you hold the lace weight double to do the inner layer. The outer layer is this kind of slip stitch pattern that's really cute, easy to memorize. It's nice, and because you got these slip stitches, it's nice and squishy and thick. So this is a really, really nice and hefty cowl. It does have a drawstring at the top. I believe the pattern instructs you to hold 8 strands of the lace weight together. I was not going to bother setting it up to do that. So I just used the contrast color, which is Fiber for the People, BFL, DK, and Char. And I just did an I-cord with that. I'm actually noticing I'm supposed to tie a knot in the end of my I-cord, and I didn't. So I'll do that before I give this back to my husband. So it has this draw cord. You can, cinch up the top of the cowl if you want to keep you extra warm. The instructions have you sort of work it through when you're done, which only took a few minutes, but I think, if I had thought about it ahead of time, I probably would have just made the I-cord and folded it into the top edge, because you knit this ribbing to double the length you want and then fold it over and join it to the lace layer that's inside. And you could easily just put this drawstring in there and have it in there while you work those stitches together and fold it in there that way. But yeah, working it through afterwards, it just took a few minutes. It was just a little fiddly to do. So I'm really happy with this. This is so nice and warm and thick. I really want one for myself, but I really hate knitting the same thing twice. So that's probably never going to happen. But this is a fun, kind of easy to memorize project. It looks a lot more impressive than it really is, but sort of like the thoughtful details with the lace layer inside and the drawstring, really cute. So I'm really happy with this project. It is my first FO of 2021, left over from 2020, of course. I have not started anything new for 2 reasons mostly. One, I am really trying to finish this one last design that I am going to be publishing independently. And I've been mostly focusing on that. And then you will maybe recall I'm doing my Finish Fix Frog 2021 journey. So I really want to focus on finishing whips and UFOs that I currently have. I am sure I will be casting on some new projects in the midst of that, but I have not, because I want to at least start making some good headway with those projects. If you are looking for stuff about Finish Fix Frog, I'm going to be kind of documenting that in a separate series of short vlogs, like 10 or 15 minutes each, right here on the YouTube channel, of course. So I've already got my first vlog up where I go through my whip pile, just sort of show off a few things. I did do that, and I pared it down to just 14. So I definitely have my work cut out for me. But if you want all the details on Finish Fix Frog, you can check out those vlogs. If you watched the previous episode, you will presumably recall that I showed you guys I was going to do a kind of like personal sock mystery for 2021. So I picked a bunch of sock patterns. I paired them up with some yarns from my stash. I tucked them all into some gift bags because I didn't have any plain brown paper bags. And every 2 months, I'm going to pick a bag at random. I won't know what's inside, and I will open it, and that will be the pair of socks that I'm going to work on for the 2 months. So I did that for January. I haven't started anything yet. I haven't even wound the yarn yet, but I did pick it. So the pattern I'm going to be working on, I printed everything in black and white, so maybe I'll pop a photo in here. Pattern I'm working on is called Plow Lines from Knit Spot. So this is a 2-color sock with what looks like a kind of slip stitchy faux cable pattern. I didn't even read through the pattern, so I actually don't know how that's created. Oh, it does say a vertical slip stitch pattern. And the 2 yarns that I had picked to go with it are these. So this dark one is from Skeiny Dipping, and this is, the colorway is called Rhinebeck 2015 Deja Vu. This is her Marrakesh fingerings. This is a merino cashmere nylon. Should be delightfully soft. It's called 2015 Deja Vu, so I feel like it's like a throwback to 2015, but that's not when I actually bought it. I definitely bought it at Rhinebeck or India Entangled at Rhinebeck. Because as far as I know, that is the only place I have gone where I have seen Skeiny Dipping in person. And it's run by a delightful woman named Christine. So that is lovely. Dark red, a little bit of oranges, browns. Really gorgeous. Love, love, love. And this one is another one of a kind, or limited edition, I guess I should say, limited edition. So this is from Nice and Knit. And this colorway is Crab Cakes. And I know that they dyed this as a show color for the pop-up at the Knot House a couple of Maryland Sheep and Wools ago. So for Maryland Sheep and Wool, the Knot House, which is about 30 minutes from the fairgrounds, they do a pop-up that starts Friday night. Obviously not in 2020. Real bummer, but they do a pop-up, and they usually have some special guests who are in, and they dye special colorways. So this one is Crab Cakes, which of course Maryland is famous for. And I love this very like speckles. I love those purple speckles. Really beautiful. So this is doesn't say what the base is. Just says, okay, superwash merino sock. Okay, so a nice superwash merino. It's a little on the thin side because it is 463 yards. This one's only 400, so hopefully they'll still play nicely together. But the colors, I think, are going to go great together. Sorry, children yelling. So I think the colors are going to be really cute together. Winding yarn is on my to-do list, but I haven't quite made it there yet. I'm really excited to start these for my first sock project. Again, I have until the end of February to get this done. Actually, that's kind of perfect. These are really good kind of February colors. Since this is the 2020 year in review episode, I'm gonna pop a few pictures in here of my other FOs for 2020. So that is it for my 2020 FOs non-design. It's not much. I got my racerback tee, the yellow brick cowlet, which was a test knit for Karina Spencer, the chevroche hat, which was a test knit for Sarah Jordan, and which I have since given away. And I finished one pair of socks for myself, which I do absolutely love. But that is it. It's really sad. I swore up and down I was going to have more time for selfish knitting this year, and you would think with the pandemic and being stuck at home that would have happened, but it did not. And part of that is just, obviously being very focused on knitting samples for designs, and then the other part is homeschooling my youngest child now. Takes up a lot of time. There's the actual homeschooling, and then there's the planning and trying to figure out what the hell I'm supposed to teach him. I mean, he's only in kindergarten, it's not like I have to teach him rocket science or anything, but there is a curriculum, and I've got to figure out what he knows and what he doesn't, and how to teach him the things that he doesn't know. And I don't think I'm a bad teacher, but I think I would be better suited for teaching older children. So it takes up a lot of time and just a lot of energy. So I didn't get nearly as much done as I hoped, but since I am retiring from design, hopefully that is going to change significantly this year. I should certainly have a lot of finished whips since I am finished fix and frogging, but hopefully I'll have some new projects starting and finishing as well. I'm very ambitious, possibly bordering on delusional, but there's so much that I want to knit, and hopefully this will be the time that I have time. But all in all, that is the grand total of my finished objects, non-design, for 2020. I have a pattern drop for you in this episode, one of my very last pattern drops. This pattern drop comes with a bit of a story. If you watched the previous episode, you knew I was waiting on a package for a new sample of this design. I designed this pattern, the Metamorph Magus wrap, for Forbidden Fiber Company's Harry Potter Advent Calendar. And of course, I did not want to spoil the colors for the Advent Calendar folks. So I got some new minis, and I contracted a sample knitter and sent them to her, and she knit up a second sample for me. And as far as I know, on December 21st, it landed at the USPS facility in Capitol Heights, Maryland, which is about 40 minutes away, and I haven't heard a peep about it since. Tracking shows nothing. It's just sitting there. It says arriving late. No kidding. I don't know what's going on. I certainly hope it's going to arrive eventually. Somebody put a lot of hard work into that. And I know there are delays at the post office, but this seems a little excessive that I have been waiting on supposedly a priority mail package from Ohio for nearly a month. We're not that far from Ohio. I mean, at this point, I could have just driven out there and gotten it. But at any rate, it is now, when you are watching this, January 15th, and I have to assume that the Advent Calendar folks have opened all of their minis at this point. Christmas was, almost a month ago already. So I'm going to go ahead and release the pattern with the original photos, with the original minis. Let's start by dropping a couple of photos in here. So for my second sample, what I did was I ordered doubles of 5 of the minis, so it works toward the middle. They meet in the middle, and then the colors graduate out, mirroring each other to the ends, which I think is going to be a nice take on this, and hopefully, again, that sample is going to turn up. Part of the problem is that I pay sample knitters based on the yardage of the final sample, which I need the sample to weigh it and find out what that is, so I can get the lovely person who knit that sample paid. But here, I'll go ahead and show you the original. So this is the Metamorph Magus wrap. This uses, I believe they're 85 or 88 yard minis from Forbidden Fabric Company in a fingering weight yarn. They all have adorable Harry Potter themed colorway names. And you can see this one, the colors just move from one end to the other. They don't join in the middle in any way. So this is a lot of various colors, but I am trying to work the pattern so that they kind of transition neatly. You know, it's hard to find something that's going to work for so many different colors. So this uses 12 minis. Get a close up for some of the stitch patterns. Nothing here is super advanced. So it has a, well, let's start at the other end. It has a picot cast on, some mixed garter stitch, a slip stitch pattern. This, it's getting kind of blown out on the camera, but it's just like a fun slip stitch. It has a name. I want to say like thorn stitch or something. You can get close up. You can see how that goes. So we meet here in the middle. So we work from the end, we meet in the middle, and then we start decreasing and increasing in the other direction. So you've got this kind of V-shaped wrap. So columns of eyelets, bobbles, and then the stitch patterns. You can see a little better in this one. Work out the other way in the other colors. So this is, I will stand up and show you a little bit here. As you can see how big this is. And when I wear it, okay, goes right in the back, wraps all the way around the front. This would be a great candidate for a nice shawl pin to sort of hold it closed. But my inspiration for this was the Yule Ball, because I was thinking about kind of a nice long wrap stole kind of piece that maybe the young ladies of Hogwarts might enjoy wearing. So this pattern is now available in my Ravelry shop and on PayHip. The links are down below in the comment box. Of course, as I mentioned previously, I had committed to this project either the end of last year, the very beginning of this year. And since then, some rather unpleasant things have come to light, particularly some things J.K. Rowling has said about the trans community and trans women. So we are big fans of Harry Potter in this house, but we also certainly don't support those views and comments. So I'm going to be donating a portion of the sale, from every sale of the shawl pattern, to the Trevor Project, which provides support for LGBTQ youth. Again, that uses mini skeins. You could certainly do it another way. The total, it's 12 minis and they're 90, almost 90 yards each. Again, I think it was like 85 or 88. And of course it didn't use every last scrap of each mini, so it's probably about 1,000 yards total. So you could definitely use maybe three colorways of a sock yarn, or maybe you take one main color and mix it up with some minis, however you want to do it. And again, hopefully that second sample will arrive, so I can sort of show you another way that you can transition the colors and how that might look. So that is the pattern drop for this episode, the Metamorph Magus wrap. That is my second to last indie pattern being published. I do have one last pattern in the works, one last indie pattern that I have been plugging away and it is coming very soon. It should be almost ready to launch by the time you were watching this. I don't know, I do know what the issue is, which is that it involves some color work, and that's something I have to be able to sit down and look at the chart to do, and with 2 kids and a dog, time for sort of sitting peacefully and focusing for that kind of work is limited, but I am very close. So this is the ratico pullover. The big thing, of course, is this color work at the bottom. This is obviously not blocked, so this is sort of a faux argyle kind of concept that I came up with. I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. I really like the sort of low contrast between the 2 shades of pink and then that darker, this is actually a very, very dark brown. I really like the way that turned out. It does obviously need to be blocked, but this is a little deceptive because the shape of this pullover is actually A-line, so it comes outward from the bust. And I really hope blocking is going to open this up, and that shaping is going to become more apparent. So that is the part that took me a long time. Not only is it color work that I need to focus on, but there are most of the rows you are using all 3 colors. I do think it's worth it. I think the patterning is adorable, but it is definitely something that requires concentration. So that is why that has taken so long. That part is finally done. I have started the sleeves. These are sort of going to be elbow length sleeves, and these also, as you can see, are widening rather than narrowing. So they're going to end right at or just below the elbow and have a sort of wide bell shape. So the whole thing is basically, the idea is for it to be kind of a swingy 60s inspired shape. Of course, I need to do the trim on the collar, and then that will be the last bit. I used that dark brown for the hem. I'm not sure which colors I want to use for the sleeve hem and then the collar, or the sleeve cuffs and the collar. I do have a fair bit of each of the 2 contrast colors left, so I could go either way. I'm leaning toward using the dark brown on the sleeves, but then using the dark pink on the collar, but I'm not 100% sold. So I think what I'm going to do is do the sleeves with the dark brown and then see how much I have left. I actually have a whole nother skein of the dark brown. I wasn't 100% sure how much I was going to need, but I don't want to wind it if I don't have to. So I really hate winding yarn. So if there is not enough of the dark brown for the collar, then I will definitely use the pink rather than bust into another skein of it. So this is the size small, so it's going to have 10 sizes from extra small up to 5X. So this is the small. The bust is, I believe, 36 inches. You want to wear this with either 0 or negative ease at the bust because it's going to widen out elsewhere. And this stockinette fabric is going to stretch at the bust. So negative ease will still give you a nice shape. But this small size only used 1 skein each of the 2 contrast colors. So that's another reason I don't want to go ahead and use that second skein if I don't have to. Oh, this is stone wool American Delaine Merino. It's a sport weight yarn. It's a little bit, it's not super rustic, but it is not like a super tightly plied, springy kind of yarn either. I've been very happy with it, except for that dark pink skein. It had 2 knots, and then it also had, I was knitting and it just was, I got to a point and I had like a wisp of yarn holding the strand together. It just broke. So I don't know if that particular skein had a little difficulty. We need maybe some quality control. The other skeins were fine. So not sure what that was about, but it's, as I said, it's not like a super tightly plied springy yarn, but it is very soft. No problem wearing right next to the skin. And I love sort of they have a lot of colors, but they're kind of muted. They're not super bright, which is sort of in my wheelhouse. So that pattern is coming soon. I just started that sleeve yesterday. The sleeves are going to go really fast. You know, I just need time. Alone time. But that is coming. If I were you and you're watching this shortly after the podcast is published on Friday morning, then I would look for that next week. It should be coming. And now for the sort of the 2020 wrap up of pattern drops. I published 14 new patterns this year. I also upgraded sizing for a fair number of patterns, meaning that they originally had probably about 6 sizes, maybe 7, and they now have 10 sizes, most likely, up to 5X. Oh, that's what I was going to say. And I republished the Jaji pattern with sizing and shaping for women. So we're going to count that as pattern number 15, and I will throw a little montage in here of the 15 new patterns from Media Peruana Designs in 2020. So some of those were published in magazines or by a third party, but most of them are indie designs that are available in my Ravelry and PayHip shops, which are linked down below. And of course, I put the pattern name on each pattern so you can go check those out. Since we're speaking about patterns, I will drop this in here. I have decided, since pattern design is no longer going to be my primary job, that's going to give me a little bit more wiggle room, and that I'm not really depending on that money. It's going to be kind of a passive income for me. And so I have repriced, in the process of repricing all of my patterns, so that every pattern is going to have the default price, which is going to be a fair wage price, and then every pattern is going to have 2 coupon codes for discounts, so that I can support the idea of paying designers a fair wage. So that's primarily the reason that I'm not able to do it anymore, is that the income is not equal to the amount of labor that goes into it. So I am in the process of doing that. Once you are watching this, I will hopefully have gotten through all of my sweater patterns, and that's probably where you're going to notice the biggest difference. So the fair price for sweater patterns is going to usually be $11 or $12. Then you'll have 1 discount code that will allow you to pay the current kind of market supported price, which is usually $8 or $9. And then a second code, which will allow you to pay a discount price, which is usually going to be $6 or $7. So I believe in paying designers a fair wage. I also understand that many women are in fields where they are not paid a fair wage, and that can make it difficult for them to, in turn, pay somebody else a fair wage. So the default price is going to be the fair wage price, but there are going to be discount codes listed there as well. That is on Ravelry. I have not 100% figured out how to do this yet on PayHip. And to be honest, you know, the vast majority of my sales are still coming from Ravelry. So I will get to that, but it is not my super top priority right now to change it on PayHip. But that's how it's going to be moving forward for all the patterns I published in 2020 and all the rest of them. So I wanted to show you guys something really cute that I bought. And this also got stuck in the post office for not nearly as long as the package that obviously hasn't turned up yet, but it's been a minute. It took probably, you know, 2 weeks to get to me, and it was mail priority. But I bought the cutest thing. This is a knitted light kit from Layla Raven, Layla Robb, who is a pattern designer who is perhaps, you might be most familiar with her pattern, the, I'm not going to remember the name because I don't know how to pronounce it. The chain, however you say that. I'm going to pop a photo in here. You might recall this was on my Make 9 for 2020. I started it. I did start it. So she used to work for Quince & Company. She does not work for them anymore. That is sort of a side note. So she's doing some more independent stuff, and she put a photo on Instagram, you know, probably in November, of these knitted lights, and everybody loved them. So she actually went and sourced kits so that you can make your own. Look how cute the package is. I haven't even opened this yet, so I'm going to share it with you. Now, it says it includes the LED string lights, a pair of straight knitting needles, the knitting pattern, and a picture nail for hanging it up when it's all done. So this is going to be a really cute bit of decor for my studio here. Let's see what we got. This is a nice. All right, so these are, I believe it says US 11. And of course it includes the needles because you include that in sort of your 3D sculpture. You leave it on the needles. So it's like hung up, real cute. It hangs from the needles. So these are really pretty. It doesn't have any kind of identifying information, so I have no idea where she sourced any of this stuff. She did it really quickly though. I mean, I don't source stuff, so I don't know, but it seemed like it was rather quick. It's a little remote, so you can turn it off. That's great. My sister for Christmas got me some candles with basically the same remote. I think it's hilarious that I now have remote control candles. It's really good though, because I always forget to blow candles out. But now I'm gonna have a little remote control art piece in my studio. Oh, quick and easy pattern, QR code, so you can presumably find it on the web. I believe the pattern is free. I think it's just kind of a basic stockinette. Come on, lights, where are you? Oh, there's my lights. Isn't that cute? It's gonna be so pretty. It's gonna be really cute. I don't know what's in here. So I will definitely include a link to her Etsy shop in the show notes. I have, oh, this is the nail to hang it up. I have absolutely no idea if she is still selling these. Beats me. But you can go check out her Etsy shop and find out for yourself. So I'm really excited to start this cute little project. Has little, you can plug it into your USB. That's helpful. That's great, actually. So I'm gonna have really cute knitting sculpture in my studio whenever I get around to knitting this. All right, if you are interested in some more post-mortem for 2020, I hope you'll check out my most recent blog post where I am sort of breaking down the numbers for the Media Peruana Designs business and how that did in 2020. I think you'll find it interesting. But other than that, that is it for this episode of the Hilo Stitch podcast. Thank you so much for joining me for episode 32. Links to everything that I talked about can be found in the show notes at mediaperuana.com/Hilo and Stitch. A special thank you to my Patreon patrons again for their support. If you are interested in supporting the podcast and would like some perks and freebies and behind the scenes goodies, you can find more information at patreon.com/mediaperuana. Here on YouTube, I would really appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, share, comment, all good things that help expand the reach of not only the podcast, but the entire channel, where I have lots of free and helpful knitting tutorials for you. If you are looking for me on social media, you can find me on Instagram as Media Peruana, and I will see you next time.